All right, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for September 17th, 2024. We have two canceled public hearings this evening. The first one is Carolyn Purcell Smith at 22 Robbins Way in Spring, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-103-6-19. And then the second canceled public hearing is 117 BBA LLC at 117 Bayview Avenue in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-84-1-3.1. With that, we'll move on to our scheduled public hearing this evening. The applicant is Robert Luzino at 4 Maidstone Park Road, Spring, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-38-4-15.3. The size and location is 11,102 square feet at 4 Maidstone Park Road, Maidstone Acres, Section A, lots 21, 22, and part of lots 23, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Filed June 25th, 1931 as map number 664 in Springs. The description is to construct a 1,344 square foot of additions to an existing 1,136 square foot residence outside of the town's pyramid regulations, and to allow an existing pool patio to remain within side yard setbacks. The relief sought is 3 variances are required for this application. A variance of 3.8 feet from 255-1110 is needed to allow the pool patio to remain 16.2 feet from the western property line where 20 feet is required. 2 variances are needed from 255-1172D to construct the addition 6.9 feet and 13.2 feet outside the pyramid line along the eastern and western property lines, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this application.
Thank you. And I think this is in Vice Chair Savari's area, so she's got the report on this.
Thank you. As you can see, the property was properly posted. Next, please. I'm standing on Maidstone Park Road on the north side, and you're actually looking at the residence. Now, this is where the area where the 32 square foot entry deck will be, and also construction of a garage and equipment room on the lowest level, which will require a retaining wall as well, since the property is moderately sloped to the north.
It's not showing anything, so do you guys mind if I just tilt it so that?
That's fine.
What? Oh, sorry, Denise.
Nope, no worries.
Yeah, they're having problems earlier today.
We're good?
Yes. It's not.
Next, please, Morgan. This is in the rear of the property. You're looking at the deck, and you're also looking at the pool patio. I actually have a better shot. Next, please. This is the second floor deck, and I believe this is going to be squared off. And next, please. I'm standing at the southern end of the property, and this is the pool, which is 576, and the pool patio, which was slightly expanded to the west without the benefit of building permit. Next, please. This is just, I'm trying to give you, actually what I'm actually trying to do here is the property in the back toward the southern end of the property is higher elevated than this property. This property is actually down, and they are asking for pyramid, so I thought that was pertinent. Next, please. This is the side of the patio, I believe, that was slightly expanded and is before us for a variance. Next, please. This is the side where I think they're going to be adding, this would actually be on the west side of the property. They're going to be adding additional steps. And I also wanted to bring it to the board's attention that The pyramid variances are from both property lines, and in our packet, there's a front elevation height diagram as well as a rear elevation height diagram. Next, please. I think that might be it. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have the applicant or the agent to the applicant here this evening? Who's representing this? Please.
Vic Pershanowski, 533 Elton Street, Riverhead, New York. I'm the expediter on this project.
Are you an attorney?
What the principals are here tonight.
Are you an attorney?
I am not an
Do
attorney.
you want to raise your right
Sure.
hand? Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you. We also have here tonight is Chuck from Space Architects. They're the architects, so if you have a technical question on variance, he's here tonight to answer those questions. I just want to say for the record, I have some pictures here, which you probably have seen, but one of the aspects of the zoning board of appeals, all zoning board of appeals, is the character of the neighborhood. And in our opinion, the variance, I don't think will impact any negative aspects of the character of the neighborhood, as it was just mentioned that the property is slightly lower than the neighboring properties. And I have these pictures. You can see a comparison of the elevation of the roof lines I could submit to the board. Also, it's my understanding that the one variance about the patio has been, I think you visited the property, the vice chairman, is now moved because there was something that was removed. But either way, you'll talk to them about that. So we're here to answer any questions. It's a pretty straightforward. And like I said, we don't believe that it would impact the character of the neighborhood, any negative aspects of it.
Well, I
Go ahead, you have questions?
definitely have questions.
Yeah, here's the,
This is a substantial expansion, and I know it's a conventional septic system right now, but I'm wondering, with an expansion of this size, why it wouldn't require a new septic system upgrade?
Does the town of East Hampton have a specific code where you have a threshold? Excuse me?
We have the approval.
Oh, we have the approval, right. I forgot, we have the approval already.
For, you have the-
Septic system, for the organic system.
but it's not on the
It's been
survey.
submitted to the building department.
Just say-
I forgot, it's been a long time getting the hearing here.
Is it an IA system?
Yes.
Yes,
It is.
yeah. I have a copy of it in here if you want the permit.
Now, how much, I mean, I know that the new basement is substantial change in the footprint of the residence. So I'm just curious, how much of the existing residence is proposed to remain? Is anything that exists going to be removed and?
Chuck will answer that.
Can you just, Chuck, please announce yourself, where you are?
I'm Charles Lembo, architect, 410 West Montauk Highway, Lindenhurst, New York.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I'm not sure if you have these drawings, but I can approach and show you what the expansion is.
I do have those drawings, but it does appear to be a redevelopment of this property, and I just want to make sure that the existing residence is going to remain the same. And are any parts of it going to be removed to do what you want to do?
So the existing house's footprint and foundation are the same. The perimeter walls are the same. There are some interior alterations and new roof work. The addition to the house is just slightly larger than half of the footprint. And if you pull those up, if you pull up the floor plans, I can show you on the screen.
These plans are not in our file. I think our plans were pretty basic, so.
Can you freeze it there?
That's kind of like why I'm asking these questions.
I won't touch it. So this is the existing footprint and foundation of the existing house now,
That we have,
and we're expanding it this way towards the street, so we're maintaining both side walls.
and it is
We're not expanding
delineated,
the
so.
width, and if you can move to the next, this is the E sheet, if you can move to the next one. Actually, can you go back to the A drawings, because on the A drawings, the existing house is shaded in red, and it's much easier to see on the screen. Keep going.
Here, JP.
Okay, right.
I have these here.
I don't want to interrupt. Be as descriptive as you can because the pointing doesn't get picked up on the camera.
Understood.
I have.
Okay.
I have this with the pink on it.
So this is drawing A101, and you'll see the red shading is the original perimeter of the existing house as it currently exists. We're doing some interior alterations, but the perimeter walls are the same, and then we're moving forward with the addition here. Actually, which is the second floor, you'll see again. So this is the area of the existing house. We're knocking down the walls in the front that were the perimeter walls to open the kitchen to this new living area, and then we've expanded this piece into the master bedroom and added bathroom and closet. So this is the original footprint, foundation, and the 3 perimeter walls are remaining.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, may I just clarify, the 3 perimeter walls above ground are remaining?
Yes, it is currently a 2-story house.
Right, yeah, yes,
So the elevation. So in the back of the house is 2 stories, so your first level. The rear deck is at what level? Second story?
The rear deck, I believe, is at the 2nd story. Let me just,
Yes, I believe so.
yeah, that's correct. 2nd level, yep. But because of the slope of the property, if you can see this rendering, at the back of the house, the first floor is basically kind of sunk into the ground. So the 2nd story deck is much closer to grade at the rear of the house than the 2nd story elevation at the front of the house because the property's sloping away from the street up. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it in these elevations. So this is a 2nd story deck out the back of the house, but it's only about 4 or 5 feet above grade at the rear of the house because that property slopes towards the street. You can see it here again. This is the 2nd story deck, but a portion of the first floor at the rear of the house is below grade.
So does the current house pierce the pyramid? The existing house, does that pierce the pyramid?
Yes, I believe it does. We are changing the roof pitch slightly to increase it. The existing house has a flatter roof, but it is a full 2-story in the rear. So on the tighter side yard, which I think is the east elevation is closer. That's the one that's 13.9 feet on that side. It would interfere with the sky plane, yes. That side of the house is proposed has a shed roof, so it's climbing.
Mine said 13.9, but our notice says 13.2. I just want to make sure.
No, I'm talking about the side yard setback. The east elevation, the east wall is 13.9 at the front and 14.3 feet off the side property line.
So this is a very non-conforming lot.
Correct.
What is the nexus for us approving an increase in nonconformity on this lot?
Well, there are other 2-story houses in the neighborhood on lots of similar size.
Can we
And
take
in
a
this
look?
case, it's difficult to expand this house in any way at all without interfering with the sky plane. Because again, I tried to make this as least invasive as possible by lining up the addition sidewalls with the new. So the point was to not impact the existing side yard setbacks in any way to make them worse.
Morgan, can you pull up the aerial? And just expand that a little bit. Go ahead.
So this is the deck in the rear, this is the house. And the addition, we take the two side walls and move them forward. So we are maintaining the two existing side yard setbacks in an effort not to make the condition any worse and, not to increase the level of nonconformity.
So, but if you look at the neighboring houses, you can see the one, say, to the left of this photo. It looks like it was designed to conform to pyramid in that substandard lot, a non-conforming lot, because of the hips, and that you're basically increasing or exacerbating the nonconformity by, seems like creating the gable on those sides. So and even the house to the right is much smaller. So in terms of conforming to the character of the neighborhood, can you speak to that?
Well, I agree that the house on the right is on a larger lot, and based on the distance from the house to the side yard, it looks to me like from this aerial that this house would conform to sky plane. If this house is 2 stories, which I don't remember, I would need to see a street view. If this house is in fact 2 stories, I don't see any way that this house is complying with the sky plane, with the side, with the side yard that basically looks like it matches the side yard on our house on the tighter side. And with the slope, again, the sky plane interference is not universal throughout the whole site because the site is rising towards the rear. So it is worse in the front than it is in the back. But I would need to see a street view of this, maybe on Google Earth or something, to determine if this is a 2-story house, what level of impact it has on the sky plane. If it's a ranch, it possibly does conform because it looks like this is sloping away. And it might be the right height from the property line.
Here, Chuck, here's the front view of the house to the right.
That house was a very,
Rich, you're gonna have to come up and introduce the whole thing, so,
Can I show you this?
yes.
So that's the house. So it's a 2-story, large 2-story with a large gable roof on the east side. It looks like on the west side, it is still 2 stories. I can't tell from here though, whether it meets the sky plane or not. It's difficult, you may have a clip here, you may not. It does have a clipped hip on that right there. So it's possible that it does conform.
So what I think what we're gonna be grappling with, quite honestly, is the town code 255-111. The purposes of the code refers to orderly growth. And I'll just read some of those guidelines for you. This orderly growth is defined as to guide and regulate the orderly growth, development, and redevelopment of the town in accordance with the comprehensive plan and long-range objective principles and goals set forth therein as beneficial to the interests of the people. And to promote the goal of the comprehensive plan to reduce overall build-out, to minimize adverse impacts on the town's infrastructure and municipal budgets, and to protect natural and cultural features. And then the proper use of land, and B1 of that, is to promote and utilize the land for the purposes and scale for which it is most appropriate, ensuring a balance between ownership rights and the reasonability of compatibility with the findings and goals of the comprehensive plan. So that's one of the guidelines as a town or as a board that we are going to be looking at. And this, I'm just asking you, is this, I'm going to struggle with this one because it seems to be, for such a non-conforming lot, an aggressive redevelopment.
I don't necessarily agree with that last part. I understand what the town's code, the reason it's written that way. But obviously every non-conforming lot that is still legal are not the same throughout the town. If you look at how this house is laid out and the amount of area that they're trying to add to it, to meet the sky plane requirement with this front addition would make the addition so narrow as to almost be non-functional. Like I said, I tried my best to keep the house, a reasonable size with the expansion by lining up the sidewalls and again, trying to minimize I'm trying not to extend the level of nonconformity as it deals with setbacks and the distance to the neighbor. On the east side of the property, we have, that whole side of the roof is sloped. So it goes away from the property line and away from the side perimeter wall in the same direction as the sky plane. On the other side of the house, the west side, where we almost have a 20-foot setback, we do have a reverse gable on that side. So, and again, the reason for that is the encroachment into the sky plane at its worst case only happens at the center of the reverse gable at the peak. So, again, I'm trying to minimize the impact and the variance I'm asking for while still giving my client, a reasonable amount of room. We're not trying to build a 6,000 square foot house. It's a very small house to begin with. We're trying to just give them, an extra bedroom or two and some more living space. And again, to do that without the benefit of any sky plane variance, it's almost, it almost doesn't make sense to do the addition. The rooms would be so small and things wouldn't be able to line up, because now you would come out of a room in the back, and then, you have to jog to get into a room. The idea is to open up the kitchen and the living room into one big living space with a bedroom on the side. I can't do that if I have to take 8 feet out of, let's say, that living room, and now I have the kitchen like tucked into the corner. So again, I don't really believe that this should be considered a self-imposed hardship. They're working within the perimeter and the boundaries of the existing house and trying to make the best out of what they can. I don't know if I can give a better answer than that.
May I ask, the current house is a 2-story house, although much smaller than the new one, but what is the height of the existing house and what is the height of the proposed new house? Or
So the first and second floor heights aren't changing. The roof pitch
Right.
is larger. I think that can you go back to the street view of the existing house? You had a photograph of it earlier. It's not in my drawings. You had a photograph of it. I'm sorry.
So that's the front, right?
That's the front, right.
So now you're gonna drastically change the grade there. You're gonna dig into that grade retaining walls, and then you have a garage going underneath the house, right?
Correct. The first and second floors are obviously staying at the same, but as we pull forward, because the grade slopes away, we're taking advantage of being able to park below the first floor. It would still be not below the street level. We're not looking to go down or anything. It's a straight in. And so that roof that's there now is that we're going to demolish and put a new roof over. That's probably between a 3 and a 4 pitch. And I think we're proposing like a 5 or a 6 on 12, just to give it a little bit more of a nicer curb appeal.
You are going down. Because
What I'm
right
saying-
now,
what I'm
right now, the
saying-
present first floor is at grade.
The first floor is coming straight out of the screen,
But
but
it's
because
actually-
the ground is sloping away, we're taking advantage of the area below that we would now have access to driving into the driveway. But what I'm saying is we're not digging down below the street level. We're coming in directly off the street, parking in a driveway, and then we could continue into the garage underneath the house.
What's happening overall with the grade? Because if you look at, Morgan, if you can go to those perspective views again, go to the rear of the house showing I just don't understand. Go to the perspective. Up the top in the drawing, the photo, go all the way up to the top. Perspective views, right there, that one.
Yep.
What's happening with that grade right there where the deck is? Because if you look at the existing photos that Vice Chair took, the basement is quite exposed there. So it looks like you're drastically changing the grade on this
No,
project.
that's not the plan. I think it's just the gentleman who did the rendering just kind of did it in a rudimentary way. The grade from the front wall to the back of the house, it's not our intention to change any of that. That's the way it is, and we're not doing anything to the foundation wall in the rear. It's all happening forward. So, he drew it like a block, but in theory, the grade is at that elevation now, and it just looks kind of blocky the way he did the rendering. But it's not our intention to regrade the rear. That's why half the first floor is still sunk onto the ground in the back.
I'm very good. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, would still at some point like to, I know, thank you for sharing the change in the pitch, that's appreciated, but I was just looking for the actual tallest point of the gable. I think it'd be residence zone
If,
maximum.
I can tell you off the drawing if you, no, the actual construction drawings, they're an overall.
I just couldn't read it, but
Would be the front view, right?
because,
Can you go to the section? Keep going one more sheet. Keep going one more. So that's. So the top of the ridge
yeah,
is probably about 25 feet above the first floor. It's difficult to say how high that is from the street though, because again, the property's sloping, so it's less than 25 feet from the grade to the ridge in the back. It's significantly more to the ridge from the grade in the front, because now I have the basement level, so then it would probably be about 32 or 33 feet from the face of the driveway to the ridge, somewhere around
I
there.
think in the B zone, your max height for a pitched roof is 30 feet from grade.
All right, I'm estimating in my head.
Okay.
You know, I could get the board that information off the computer when I get back to the office. I don't have it in front of me, but.
Thank you.
In the town, just from, I haven't been before this board. When you take the height, are you taking it from the lowest point of the grade where the house hits the ground, or are you taking it from the average point where because if you're taking it from the average, then we're not encroaching anywhere near 30 feet.
I guess we'll have to get some verification on that.
It's, I think it's
But I can get the board.
anywhere at point. So in other words, where the front of the house is, I believe it's gonna be taken. You can clarify this.
Can you go back to those?
It would be
Taken at
from the
different
grade of the
points.
drive, the new driveway, the
Taken,
garage all the way
yeah.
up, I believe. Or is it natural grade? It might be.
Natural grade
Right, so,
for now.
you know, what I'm saying is, obviously, the grade back here is significantly less than the grade up the front. So some towns take it as an average from the four corners, some take it as the maximum, some take it from the crown of the road. I don't think the crown of the road is the fairest way to do it, because
we
if the
don't do it
site's
that way.
sloping significantly, I could be 50 feet high, but I only have a 25-foot high house, so, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, we don't do it from the crown of the
That
road.
would be challenged by the building department anyway.
Let's go back to the septic for a second to follow up on
Sure.
Vice Chair Severice's. So you said that, or the other gentleman, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your name, but said that there's a permit, but it's not on the survey. And so, sorry, it's not, I don't,
Can I present this to the board?
I copy for the board. It's a separate application made.
wait, I'm sorry.
I have the copies for the building permit. Because we were going to the zoning board of appeals, the building department said that it wasn't necessary to submit them at that time, but we're approved for the new integrated organic system, which is an upgrade from what's there now.
But I guess what I was trying to say is where you place the survey relative to structures on the house, there are required, setbacks, and
That's correct. The Suffolk County Health Department has strict criteria.
I know, but I would like to see it on
Can I show you?
the survey.
I didn't know the zoning would need it because it's below grade. I know the building department needs it to issue a permit. I didn't know it would need to be on the zoning board of appeals site plan, but if this is the street up here, this is the existing building and this is the pool, it's coming out of the west side. It turns, the septic system, treatment system is in the side yard, and then the leaching pool is further towards the back because we have more depth to the grade. And then the future expansion pool is on the other side. But that's where it is.
I believe because this is not an NRSP, it's really not, it's not critical that we have it.
Okay. Would you like to hold on to this? I can email you a copy if, okay.
Maybe we can put in the record. Let's put in the record.
That, you can take that copy.
Yeah. Once they've seen it, it's better if it's in the record.
Understood.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, board?
No, I just want to say that we're looking at a very large expansion of the nonconformity. And that's something that was brought up by the chair we have to consider. all the pyramid variances we approve or don't approve come under great scrutiny. We have to consider that. You talked about impact on the neighborhood. We're going to move this structure 20 feet closer to the road at that height, increasing, knowing that we have these pyramid variances that you're looking for. This is a large ask. You should know that going in, because pyramids are very important to us, and I understand your perspective. You were following the existing architecture and brought it forward, and you're giving them the maximum amount of room. Nonetheless, we're doubling the size of the structure, which is aggressive. It could be that we're on small lots and we know what the constrictions are. Nonetheless, when we look at this, we're going to struggle with the fact that there's a very large expansion of a non-conformity. And that's always something that gives us pause.
I understand, but it sounds very daunting when you say that, it's a very large expansion. But again, I think you have to look at the context of the size of the existing house. If you have a 10,000 square foot house and you do a very large expansion to make it 23,000 square feet, that is a tremendous ask, as opposed to taking a house that maybe say is 1,000 or 1,200 square feet and doubling it, and still not making a house that's so big that it's out of character with the neighborhood. So if you look at the aerial and the houses that surround it, there are other houses in that area on that block that are larger than the house that we're going to end up with when we're done. So I just asked that the board, I understand that we're adding more than 50% of the square footage of the house, but keep in mind, look at the context of it. The house is significantly smaller now than a lot of the houses in the immediate area. And that's all I would ask as far as that comment.
Yes.
But without comparing size of lot to house, we have to look at the appropriateness of the lot size relative to the development.
What I'm saying is, I don't think that the amount of square footage they're looking to add in a vacuum is an unreasonable ask for the amount of living space that they're looking to add to the house. I understand that it's impacted by the fact that the lot is.
230 feet, 230, you are doubling, you're more than twice the size of the existing house, and 230.2 square feet less than the maximum allowable. And we have to look at that.
I
We have
understand.
to look at it based on the size of the lot.
Understood.
So member Johan's point is well taken in terms of what we have to look at,
I understand.
because this is a very substantial expansion.
One other thing I'd like to say is that, because there have been some references to materials, anytime you reference a material, we should be submitted, because we can't possibly review that in order to make a decision. So I know you just submitted one piece, but there were some photos. I don't know if we had them or not.
I think, oh, go ahead, no, I don't know.
Okay, but I'm just saying, just as a point.
I didn't know that the health department approval would be required for zoning board of appeals. That was my bad. I didn't
So
know.
that may be the case. I just want to make sure that if you've referenced something in a hearing, we should have a copy that should be submitted here.
I
Otherwise-
did give it to her. She has.
One you did, but if there was a second one, I want to.
Understood.
For now, I'd like to hear from
I'm ready for the
planning.
planning
Yeah.
department.
We'll turn it over to the planning department. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for your time.
Chuck, they gave you this.
Morgan Slater for the planning department.
Morgan, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So this lot is part of a high-density residential area known as Maidstone Acres. Most of the properties in this area are undersized and irregular in shape, with some parcels even more constrained by size than the subject property. 4 Maidstone Park Road is approximately a quarter mile from Flaggy Hole Beach and about 850 feet from the tidal wetlands of 3 Mile Harbor. So the property is not within the jurisdiction of regulated natural resources, and no NRSP is required. The application is for a substantial increase in the size of the residence, which requires pyramid variances of 6.9 and 13.2 feet from the eastern and western property lines. This parcel benefits from the 4/10 rule in the code due to its lack of width, so the proposed work meets the required minimum yard setback of 11.4 feet. The GFA of the residence is proposed to more than double from 1,136 square feet to 2,480 square feet, where 2,710 square feet is allowed. The first and second stories are proposed to increase by 672 square feet each for an overall expansion of 1,344 square feet. A new basement and ground level garage are proposed, which appears to require excavation and regrading. Since height is measured from natural grade, the residence appears to be under the maximum allowable height, but we should have those dimensions shown on plans to be sure. I did look up, the definition of height in the code when I was reviewing this, and since, they are excavating, but it is ultimately measured from natural grade. And it should also be noted that the garage and the basement are not included in GFA calculations because that is the definition of GFA in the code. The pool patio appeared to be slightly expanded to the west without the benefit of building permit, and that resulted in 16.4 foot setback from the lot line where 20 feet is required. If it has been cut back, then the survey may need to be updated to reflect that, because this is the most recent survey that we have, and it shows that it is within that 20-foot setback. Overall, this application proposes a large increase in building coverage and GFA, and the board should be comfortable with this level of development on other parcels of Maidstone Acres if this application is approved. Other than that, I can answer any questions the board may have.
Do you have any questions for Morgan?
You reference in the TAM, the adjoining lot, the lot to the west was issued a building permit in 2016 to demolish a 590 square foot residence and then to construct a 2,900 square foot residence. That's the house that was under discussion here a minute
Yes.
ago.
Mhm.
That does not have a pyramid, did not require a pyramid.
It appeared to meet all zoning requirements. It just got a building permit. And I looked at the
It
plans
did
for
not
it.
appear before this board.
And it did not appear before this board. I looked for precedent in this neighborhood that had appeared before the board before, and I really couldn't find much. This is one of the only ones, I think, in recent years that has appeared before the board in this subdivision.
Any other questions?
Are we able to tell when the expansion without permits of the pool deck was done?
It's kind of hard to tell based just looking at the
I know
aerials.
there are COs.
Yeah.
From,
Yeah, the last CO was from, I think, 2001, so it's kind of leaves a big gap.
Any other questions?
Okay.
just wondering, do we know how high the retaining walls are?
I think there may be top of wall measurements, let me see.
Then I'll look in the file if they're there, yeah.
I don't see it just at a quick glance on the survey, so that may be something that they should include in the resubmission.
I think that's.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? Come on up. How are you, David?
Good evening, David Buddha. I reside in the Springs.
David, do you
I swear to tell the truth,
the
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I am rather familiar with the Springs generally because I've resided in the community for 23 years now, and I'm particularly familiar with the Maidstone Park area because it's the area that I enjoy every day, using the beaches at both Maidstone Park and Flaggy Hole Road End. I drive by this street, and I've watched the changes over time. I drive by nearly every day. There have been some substantial changes. The house immediately next door to the west, number 6, and I happen to have brought with me a photograph of that house, and since it seemed to be of interest to the board, I will be submitting that just so that you have a frame of reference for the neighboring property at number 6 to see what that looks like, and that pyramid variances were not necessary when that house was substantially renovated and expanded. It's interesting that the architect used the same word that I'm going to use in my remarks, and that word is daunting. This quite substantial renovation and expansion project on a 1/4 acre parcel in a neighborhood of mainly small summer cottages presents some daunting issues. The property's topography shows a significant slope downward from east to west, which is somewhat masked by the fact that there is already an approximately 4-foot tall retaining wall that has been built along the western wall, lot line of the property separating number 4 and number 6. I've also brought a photograph of that property, viewing this property from number 6, which shows that existing retaining wall at the front of the property, which is capped by a 6-foot fence, which, by the way, if ARB approval was not obtained to put a 6-foot fence on top of a 4-foot retaining fence, it would be violative of the town code. I will also submit a photograph of the existing frontage of the property, which shows, it may be an optical illusion, but I cannot understand how a garage underneath the existing house can be built without going down below the existing grade. So that's what I will be submitting. The published notice states that the project is the construction of 1,344 square feet of additions to an existing 1,136 square foot residence. Clearly, that alone would be a substantial expansion, more than 50% increase in gross floor area of the existing structure. And of course, those numbers do not appear to include the addition of a new front entry deck, a rear second floor deck, and the new lower level garage and storage area, which are all not taken into account in the calculation of gross floor area. As noted by the planner, such a substantial expansion requires the replacement of the existing septic system with a new innovative alternative system. I did not see included in the materials that were posted to the town website under the ZBA documents any such plan, and obviously it was discussed tonight that that plan was not submitted to you prior to tonight. That deprives you of the opportunity to understand where that septic system exactly is going to be, how it's going to be perhaps required to be elevated by protective ground or walls because of the fairly low groundwater in this area, which is relatively close to the water's edge. And you don't have the opportunity, and you should have had the opportunity, to see whether or not the septic system construction would require any type of embankment or any type of walls. Maidstone Park Road is a town highway with a 66-foot or 4-rod right-of-way width. There appears to currently be some fairly low wood retaining walls that were improperly built into the public street right-of-way. It's not at all clear to me from looking at the documents that have been submitted whether the proposed new driveway leading to a garage under the first floor would require the building of any concrete retaining walls that would be within the street right-of-way. This should be addressed by the applicant. The requested pyramid variances are substantial and of course are a self-created hardship due to the size and elevation of the expanded second floor portion of the proposed renovation and expansion. One last thing, the proposed driveway in the last dated survey seems to have been adjusted so that it is planned to traverse over an existing stormwater drainage structure, which of course would not be appropriate without explicit highway department approval. So I have, as I said, 3 photos to present to you, including the record. One shows the frontage of the existing structure with a car parked in front of it and the existing wood retaining walls, some of which I believe are clearly within the right-of-way. The view of this property from the western side, from number 6, that was taken before they built a shed.
Wrap this up.
And the third thing is, again, just for your information, because it came up tonight, I happen to have brought with me a picture of it's number 6 Maidstone Park Drive.
Thank you.
Maidstone Park Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public would like to address this application? Matt, is there anybody online?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay. Applicant, do you have any final closing remarks?
Rick Pershnowski, 533 Elm Street, Riverhead. As far as the Suffolk County Health Department approval, which we had right from the beginning, we've been reviewing this plan with all the staff for over a year, and never once did they ask me to, or is it on the instructions to include, now it's on the instructions to, of course, we have to obtain it to get a building permit. So just for the record, we would have provided it. That's the first thing that we got was the Suffolk County Health Department And I'm very familiar with the new organic system. It's really a mini sewer plant. It's an upgrade for what's there now. The town of Southampton and East Hampton has led the way in Suffolk County to requiring, it's a plus for the environment, which a lot of people don't know. It's not a regular septic system. It's a system that has to be checked twice a year by an engineer, and results have to be reported to the health department. So it's a much more sophisticated. And when we put the application in, the engineers, there are setbacks required from the Suffolk County Health Department from water wells and wetlands and things like that, and we wouldn't have gotten the red stamp if we didn't comply with all the Suffolk County Health Department approvals. But again, we would have submitted it earlier if I had saw it on the application. But we have it tonight, and if you need extra copies or anything else to support it, we're happy to give it to you.
I think we're gonna probably end up, Rich, you wanna come address this if you want? Give a brief.
Richard
Introduce
Girardi.
yourself.
How are you?
Introduce yourself.
My name is Richard Girardi. I live in East Hampton. I've lived here since 1986, full-time. I'm a builder and contractor.
You swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I just want to make a point. I know you're saying this is a substantial increase in the size of the house, but it's a two-story house that has 550 square feet per floor, which is tiny. Families can't even afford to live in a house like that today, nonetheless pay thousands and thousands of dollars worth of taxes where they can't expand it to make it a livable house. Yes, I understand you're saying it's twice the size, but it's twice the size. Each floor is only 1,000 square feet. I mean, that's probably, except in a two-story home, that's not a big house. It may be a big house for a single-story house, but it's not, they're only increasing, what they're doing is they're only increasing one bedroom, and that's why they're upgrading the septic system to allow the 4 bedrooms.
But they're increasing a nonconformity, which is what we have to look at.
It is, but
By a
right next door,
significant
there was a
amount.
tiny little house. I mean, when I say tiny, it was a 1-bedroom home that now has 4 bedrooms, complete, much larger expansion than what you're talking about here is what I'm getting at. So I don't understand how you'll give that person the ability to do it, but this house cannot get the ability to do it when I'm telling you, each floor, I've been in that, I have friends of mine, I've known them for 20 years. Each floor is 550 square feet. How many people could live in 550 square feet?
Listen, you're before us tonight. The other one didn't come before us, right? They met.
He did. He had full variances. We asked him.
They didn't have to come before us, so they by right within their zoning got their permit. This was straight to the building department. You're before us because you're asking for a variance. So
We're asking for
that's
the variance
increasing a
because of
nonconformity.
we were told by the building department, the reason we're being asked for a variance has nothing to do with the size of the house. It had to do with the being in the pyramid. That's why they made us come into the variance board. I'm telling you what it was. I was in there myself.
We get that. We
So
get that.
it has to do with not the size. That wasn't the reason. It was just because of the pyramid. So if you're saying if we can conform further into and be less into the pyramid, that the amount of square footage, there's ways to do that.
Well, one of the
Well, that's one of the standards. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
standards
just.
we have to look at is whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method
Or if it's the minimum variance
feasible to
necessary.
pursue other than an area variance.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is it really about the 2,000
is
square
this
feet, or is it really
substantial?
about the
And the
pyramid?
answer
That's
is
what
yes.
that's what I'm asking.
If you were 2,000 square foot and weren't asking for a variance, you wouldn't be before us.
Correct.
You'd be going straight to the.
But I'm telling you, the reason we are in the variance department is because when we went to the building department with health department permits and everything else, they kicked us back because of the interference into the pyramid. I mean, that house is in the pyramid already. I mean, we can't change what's there.
Right.
We can't. But we could change what's in front of it to be more conforming if that's what you're asking for.
But we can't tell you.
No, I understand it, but
what to do.
you know what, I'm asking a question.
On our end,
that's
we're
all.
just trying to tell you as a board,
Right.
the criteria, the standards we have to look at. And as the builder, you know.
But forget the builder,
about
that's what
being
Chuck was
more in
saying is that,
Compliance with the code.
yeah, but what Chuck is saying is that it's unfair because they already are they can't change what exists. All they're trying to do is follow the existing house. Unfortunately, the land slopes, so it makes it more into the pyramid than it would, but it's the circumstances. It's not because they want to be in that. It's that they're trying not to invade it any further than it is. It's really not any worse than what already exists. It's way in it now. And actually by rearranging the roof line, we're getting better, not worse. Because of the way the way the reverse gables are and stuff is actually worse. When you reverse the gables on this, you're actually going to be, the eaves are going to be lower, so you're going to be less into it. It's going to look like a better house, quite frankly. But I know you don't care about what it looks like. I get it. But
Thank you.
I'm just making that point, that's all. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can close it out.
Okay. In the matter of the application of Robert Medino, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second. Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, that ends our hearings. We have some other decisions to make. We have Carolyn Purcell Smith at 22 Robbins Way in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-103-6-19. And that's a request for a 30-day extension. I think that was up for hearing this evening.
Yes, it
A
was.
continuation, and they're going to need an extension. I think it's going to be scheduled for the 22nd. Is that right, Jameson?
Yeah, let me just open my
October 22nd.
Yes.
email where I have.
And
the
we're
date.
requesting October 8th for all records to be in.
Yes, October 22nd.
Okay, so October 22nd, very good.
It's still a continuation, right?
It's still a continuation,
Yes.
but we have to request a 30-day extension.
Yeah.
So,
I'm fine
so
with
you want to
that.
make a motion?
Oh, okay. In the matter of Carolyn Purcell Smith, 22 Robbins Way, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-103-6-19, I make a motion that we approve the request for a 30-day extension.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
I concur. Next, we have Sean Trudeau and Julia Stark Trudeau at 19 Merrill's Road. I'm again for Suffolk Tax Map number 300-106-2-48. That's a request to reopen the record. Now, board members, you know that we made a decision on this. The applicant is requesting there to submit drawings that show they are reducing or eliminating, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but they're eliminating the pyramid variance in the rear of the house, which seemed to be an issue to the zoning board.
You mean on the decking, in the rear decking?
And yeah, where the decking was. I know that we struggled in our conversation, and previously to this, we tabled it, and we're having the conversation this evening. I'll give you my feeling first. I feel that maybe we should give this applicant the opportunity to do this. I don't know that it pays to, in this case, if they can show that they're going to reduce it. I think maybe we have the opportunity to look at it. Vice Chair, I know you have a
You know what I'm gonna say.
process.
Okay. I'm on record, I have already approved this application.
In its entirety.
So for me, the issue is not the decision. The issue for me is the process. And this board made a decision. It's now going to get a resolution. The applicant could withdraw the application. They can get the resolution and then submit a modification. They do already, in our code, in our protocols, we have ways for them to go forward. I think this is a very slippery slope, and for those reasons, I'm going to deny this request.
Jameson, I think we had a conversation earlier. Can you just review what is allowable under town law and what our role is?
Yeah, so this application and discussion, as Vice Chair mentioned, the board did already have their post-hearing discussion. Prior to, obviously, we know it hasn't been reduced to a determination yet, so prior to that determination being drafted, the applicant is allowed to make this request, and that's why it's in front of the board. The board has to consider the request. You obviously don't have to grant it. In this particular case, and I know this is also, it was on the agenda last week. I wasn't here. There was, I think, some understandable confusion because of the process. In this case, I don't believe that Samantha circulated the letter, because we often have this question, if the record is closed, then we don't want to show you all the letter. I don't see that as being necessarily the case here. The cover letter, basically, so if none of you have seen the cover letter, have any of you seen the cover letter?
No.
No.
Okay, so the cover letter was submitted to the board on August 19th, and it basically, and the board, I'm sure, remembers this, there were various aspects of the application. The majority of the board approved a few of the aspects of the application, but the covered porch was denied. And there was a discussion about that having to do with the required pyramid variances and also the coverage, the overall lot coverage. So in response to hearing the board's discussion, and according to the applicant, that some of those concerns were not actually raised at the hearing itself, they submitted this cover letter as, again, I said August 19th. I'm not sure when the post-hearing discussion was, but I think it was just maybe a few days prior to that. And what this is saying is that they would like the board to consider reopening the record to allow the applicant to address specific concerns raised by the board at the work session, and basically accept into the record a set of building plans that would reduce the overall non-conforming total coverage so that it's now conforming, reducing it by, it looks like about 10%, and eliminating the required pyramid variances. So all that is in front of the board tonight is whether you would like to allow the record to be opened to accept those plans, which would then necessitate the planning department to look at it again and have the board either uphold your determination or change your determination or say no.
And I might add that if we do have a request, our responsibility is to act reasonably. And if it appears to be a reasonable request, we must consider it. We don't have to say yes. We can say yes or no still when the decision is ours. But I still say we have, as a zoning board, a responsibility to consider it. If it's reasonable, sounds reasonable. I'm
going to say that I was opposed to this when it first came up. In thinking through it, though, until we adopt a determination, any board member can change their mind. Is that correct? I could have voted for something the week before, thought about it during the week, and changed my mind. That seems there's some flexibility built into it on the part of the board. I wondered after thinking about why isn't that flexibility built into it on behalf of the applicant? So when we were talking about it last week, we said, I think correctly, the chair said, let's wait till we can discuss this with council and get a direction about whether or not we are creating a problem, allowing it to happen, or if this is procedurally covered with typical protocol that's presented to us on how we can operate. In other words, can this happen over and over again? The answer would seem to me to be yes, because procedurally, the window is open. And when I thought about it, if it's open for us to change our mind, I didn't know what the basis of saying that they don't have an opportunity to change or change at least their presentation. I would like to know what happens later if we do approve it. We have another hearing that we're going to do or not.
So in this case, and the board, we've sort of been dealing with a couple of requests similar to this. They're not asking to reopen the hearing, which is a different request, as we know, and that's a unanimous request of the board, a unanimous approval, and also assuming another hearing. They're asking to reopen the record, that the materials get in, and the board, this would prompt is another post-hearing discussion.
One other thing I was just going to say, when I was considering it, you brought this up already, Mr. Chairman, is that if we were to do this and we thought that the changes that were proposed, if this was a benefit overall to the project, then why would we not consider it? If this brought it into a situation where we were willing to accept it. So it seems to me, at least examining the information is worth taking a shot, only because I think we have some flexibility on the board side to change our mind. And it's not until the determination is approved that this is, technically closed. So that was my feeling.
Barry, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, well, I disagree that we should reopen the record. I agree with Vice Chair Savarese. They also, they came in, they knew they were exceeding building coverage and whatever the other variances were for the entire project. And the agent, Mr. Kurse, did address like the roof line changes and all that. So they gave their side of it. As far as they say it wasn't addressed, no one questioned it. We hear the hearings, we go home, we look at everything, we make a decision. Maybe there's something that would come up after that wasn't specifically drawn out in that hearing. And I think this is a slippery slope, as mentioned by Member Savarese, Vice Chair, sorry. And I vote not to reopen the record on this.
Jay?
Yes, thank you. So I also agree with Vice Chair Savarese on the need to respect the process. And I do believe, I think this board is very accommodating of applicants. When they come in with multiple variances, they might read a TAM, they might hear our discussion during the public hearing, and very often, they have that opportunity to ask to leave the record open, to submit some alternatives. And I think that is a proper procedure and time that we give. Sometimes we think we're overgenerous with that, but we do that. And I think when an applicant comes in with pyramid variances, side yard setback variances, rear yard setback variances, coverage, variances, they know they were represented by, experienced counsel, that there are chances that those get denied. So I'm concerned about leaving it open. I think there were opportunities to do it, or this does sound a little more like a withdrawal and a new application, because now they want to also deal with the coverage, and it really starts to become a bit of a different application. And I appreciate Member Johan's point about, well, if we have the option to rethink before the written resolution, what is the applicant? I see them as two different things, because the record is closed, for the applicant when we're making from the point that then we're making the decision. And I think it's a different part of the process. So I also would not agree to reopen the record, because I think there are other alternatives.
I'm just going to reiterate that as a board, we asked counsel to advise us. She advised us that as part of the process, we're citing process, as part of the process town law allows this to come before us. So in my view, it is part of the process, and we just have to make a decision whether to see it or not. I don't think we can have our own little definition of process. I think the slippery slope is also that if we are unreasonable in our request, it could create a legal issue.
I wasn't at all balking at their right to come in and make the request to reopen the record. I think we are having a reasonable and considered discussion right now about it, and, giving the request a hearing with a small h, not a public hearing, but that's.
We okay? Is it?
Yeah, I'm just, making sure that I'm covering all my bases since the board went the extra step and discussed it and sort of their potential proposal. I think I'm going to read this into the record, the letter, because it sounds like you guys are sort of basing your decision off of what I said, characterizing it, but not exactly knowing what they were offering.
Well, that's part of the point. We still don't know. They didn't submit anything.
Well, no, they did.
Specific.
They did.
Specific.
They did. There's plans. That's what so let's just reiterate. Their request, this is their cover letter, requesting that the board reopen the record to accept their specific amended plans. But you guys didn't see them yet because the threshold question is whether you'll accept them or not. So we didn't give them to you yet.
I'm sorry, Council, can you clarify? Because you said you'd like to read this into the record, but we were voting to not reopen the record. So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. No, I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying I want to
what I tried to do is characterize the letter, so I didn't read directly from it. But then it concerned me when you said things like the overall lot coverage, that sounds like a new application. And if you're basing your decision on not opening the record because that's what you believe, I want to make sure you actually know what they're offering instead of me sort of characterizing it. Do you know what I mean? It's to protect you guys.
I was listening. I mean, when Vice Chair Savary said there are other options, they could withdraw the application. I think that's what I was getting at as well.
It's also an option.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah,
I'm not saying
I don't know how withdrawing the application would be a viable option. I guess they'll either Article 78 this portion of the denial to try to, because now that we know that they tried, or they could do a modification of the application with the new plans.
That was one question I had that Vice Chair said. Once we
Yeah,
on the resolution, they can't do a modification.
I don't know if they can of a denial of the denied portion. That's why I kind of said it. Well, I'm not sure.
But they could come in with a modification if we were to pass the resolution. But they could come in with a modification. Is that an alternative as well?
Well, it's not a modification if we haven't voted on the thing. It's not a modification.
No, based on the denial.
But it's not a modification. It's not ratified.
No.
Again, I approved the whole application.
Right.
But based on them getting this portion of what they're trying to readdress denied,
I guess they
isn't it
could.
also within our code and process for them to come back to us and ask for a modification?
I guess of the approved portion.
No, of the portion that was denied. In other words, what they're doing right now with these changes.
I don't
Can't
know.
they come back and make a modification and submit that change?
I don't
that
think
part of the process?
we don't give people the opportunity to apply to modify a
That's
denial.
exacerbating what we're looking for. That's a bigger slippery slope.
Modifications.
I think, I don't know, when you make a decision, if everybody turns around and starts doing this, that's kind of like how I'm not understanding how that's healthy for
Well,
process.
yeah, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not defending this application. I don't.
No, I want.
For me, and I know the board has, somewhat aware of my feelings on this, is First of all, it takes an application off of the desks of the planning department down the road. We decided tonight would be the first decision, and then in a couple of weeks, it's decided and it's done, as opposed to another application down the road many, many, many months from now. Also, to Terry's point, and to Terry piggybacking off of it, I see both sides of it. Yes, once the hearing is closed and you all get to go home and think about things and say things in the post-hearing, in some cases, and I actually don't know, I was repeating what the applicant said, that this was not raised at the hearing. I did not go back and listen to it. But sometimes it's their first time really hearing the board's feelings about a particular aspect of it, because sometimes at the public hearings, you all really don't say much, and it gives them the opportunity to be able to respond in a way that might satisfy the board. Because the other option is, let's say you all said yes, and the plans were submitted, you can still then say no, but at least you're looking at the plans. You can still deny whatever this new proposal is. But at least we're operating with full information.
So I think a better process, if there was a request, we should have been given the request, the cover letter, but not the packet. And the cover letter is a request to open up the record. And I think we should be able to read that and say, and make a decision on that, based on what that cover letter says.
Okay.
But
well, we can still do that, because I don't want it to die here.
I think that would probably be a proper protocol to do. And then if we say, yes, we'll reopen it, then we get the package and decided on that. But
yeah, I don't really know where the decision, how it landed this way. As you all know, she is the guard of all things that applicants try to get in front of you. This is just one that was let through because I said yes. That's why it's on the agenda, as opposed to so many people are trying to throw things at you after the record is closed and you never see them and that's the reason why. But I agree, we just had this discussion not too long ago where the letter had a lot in it. Too many arguments that upset you guys and you didn't want it in. This one has just some facts, in which case you can see it. I don't really know the right answer.
So counsel, I just want to clarify. I think you were concerned that I said this looks like a new application. What I was really trying to say is the part of the application that was denied was, I don't remember the discussion that it was denied because of coverage. It was denied because of, as I understood my fellow board members, the pyramid, and in my case, it was the pyramid and the side yard setbacks, the added side yard setback relief required. So that's why when I heard that the coverage is also being, that was what I meant, because it didn't seem, sorry if it used the word seem, I was just trying to make the distinction between focusing in on the thing that was denied as opposed to changing other parameters of the application that I don't think were, I don't recall them being.
Coverage was discussed.
Well, coverage was discussed, and then I don't know if you heard me say that this also says that the pyramid variances were eliminated. So those, I guess this was their attempt to listen to what the board said and give you a more palatable option.
okay, we hard and fast. We're sticking with it, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sticking with it.
All right, next we have minutes approval of September 10th, 2024.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for September 10th, 2024 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Next we have a resolution. April Taylor, this is a correction of a determination. It's a resolution amending the determination. There was an error in the conditions of approval. That's been corrected. I think we're all been made aware of it. So who had this? You want to make a motion?
Application of April Taylor, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-6-2-19. I make a motion to approve the resolution amending determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur. Concur. Thank you. That concludes. Vice Chair.
The time up. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting of the zoning board of appeals on September 17th at 7:44 PM.
Second?
Concur.
Concur.